Welcome to this amazing Monday. I hope you're fired up and excited, just at least as I am, because we have an incredible week ahead of us with so much to talk about, starting with Tesla. Today, earnings day, 5 p.m. I'm going to be live streaming on my channel. Check it out. So in this video, I'm going to touch briefly on what I expect to see and hear from Tesla earnings day today. A lot to talk about. Also, we have to talk about what SpaceX just did and how incredible that is and how little of respect they're getting from mainstream media. It's actually mind-blowing to me. Also, we got to talk about Mark Cuban actually going all in on Bitcoin. Welcome to the party. Also, we got to talk about cord cutting. There's a massive report from S&P Global about cord cutting trends and what it means for stocks like FUBO, for example, which took a massive hit this year, and the future actually not that bad. Also, the Satoshi Nakamoto story seems to be finally coming to an end. There's a copyright lawsuit that actually involves a person who's claiming he's Satoshi Nakamoto, a guy by the name of Craig Wright from Australia. And the cool thing about it, that lawsuit is actually wrapping up these days, and Craig Wright, the self-proclaimed Satoshi Nakamoto, has to come up with proof that he is indeed who he says he is in order to win that lawsuit. So one way or the other, we're going to have our answer probably very shortly whether Craig Wright is indeed the inventor of Bitcoin. Actually, exciting story. I'm looking forward to it. Before we get started with all this exciting news, my name is Tom. Welcome. If this is your first time here, we're moving in a little bit fast. Don't worry, you'll catch up. Now, my name is Tom. I used to be a senior financial analyst. Now I'm a full-time YouTuber talking to about the mainstream media fucking up about Tesla, about economics, about the financial world, and about the stock market. There's so much to talk about. Let's start with our first story of the day, Tesla. Now, what did just happen? Did you see that? I mean, let's start with Tesla. Blup. I'll keep it in for you guys. I mean, why not? We're not going to take ourselves too seriously. So let's talk about Tesla. So the thing about Tesla, that after it had a massive spike of 2020, almost 700%, this year it's kind of been trading sideways. Nothing really happening with the stock. This is going to be very interesting to see, especially in light of the Chinese crisis with the whole customer support issue that's going on with China, especially given what happened with Texas and the erroneous mainstream media accusations of an autopilot crash. There's a lot to talk about. They actually delivered a lot of cars in Q1, 185,000, which means they're ramping up. Giga Berlin is about to go up. Giga China, everything is moving along very nicely. The expectations are quite high from Tesla. So if anything, they're only set up to fail with this actual. So check it out on the screen right now. This is a really nice summary of the Wall Street consensus numbers for the earnings day. Shout out to Seeking Alpha. So we have a 0.77 earnings per share expectation, which is a 208% year-over-year growth, at 10.3 billion of revenue, which is a 72% year-over-year growth. Name a similar size company, about $600 billion, give or take, that has these kind of expectations. 208% year-over-year EPS, 72% revenue growth. That's startup level numbers. That's a $600 billion company. That's a lot to expect from a company. The expectations from Tesla, as you can see, are extremely high, and sometimes it can work against them as far as what the share price does after the earnings day, so be careful. So what do I expect to hear from Elon Musk during this earnings day presentation beyond just the financials, beyond the numbers? Well, actually just three things. Number one, the Tesla crash in Texas and the whole debacle around the so-called autopilot crash from mainstream media. Number two, the whole situation in China. I definitely want to hear more clarification about what the hell is going on right there with the whole customer service stuff. And number three, I'm really curious to hear Elon's take on the moat, on the competition. How are they going to get themselves apart from the competition with VW getting into it, with other legacy automakers getting into it? I'm really excited to hear Elon Musk's take on what they're doing to actually increase their competitive advantage. It would be really interesting to hear all of these 3 points get addressed, but I'll settle for 2 out of 3 at best. But let's see, maybe Elon will keep surprising us. We'll see.
We are back on this Saturday morning, April 24th, 2021. If you think it's hard to parallel park safely here on Earth, check this out. That's SpaceX's Dragon successfully docking with the International Space Station just a few hours ago. It's actually the second successful dock for Elon Musk's private space company. Dragon launched from Kennedy Space Center with 4 astronauts on board on Friday morning. Pretty cool look from 240 miles above the Earth.
Thank you, generic media people. And for this, I gotta talk to you about what the hell is going on with SpaceX. SpaceX just did the unthinkable. These guys have pretty much rejuvenated a dead program. Let me remind you, and this is kind of symbolic. The last flight NASA ever had was in April 2010. Now, is this symbolic that Dragon 2 just completed their second mission in 6 months on April 2021, 11 years later? I don't think so. Nothing is coincidental with Elon Musk, not to mention the fact that this man has just built a goddamn bus going to the ISS. A goddamn bus. A bus going into space every freaking 6 months with reusable rockets. Reusable rockets. I mean, who would have thought in 2010 that within 11 years, which is pretty much a blink of an eye in space exploration time, that we will have a goddamn bus propelled by reusable rockets taking people into the International Space Station every 6 months. And even though I'm extremely excited and pumped about the future, about what SpaceX just did, I don't feel they're getting the respect they deserve from mainstream media. This is a literally 25-second clip in some morning show with some half-ass parallel parking joke. Come on, man. Is that the best you can do? I could have written it on my toilet. Come on. This is not a parallel joke moment on some morning show. This is a goddamn bus with reusable rockets taking people into space every 6 months after NASA actually discontinued flights 11 years ago because they couldn't hack it. That's the news we need to be reporting about. This shit needs to be on TV on prime time with a 30-minute segment about how this man and this company have revolutionized space exploration. So, shout out to mainstream media, you dropped the ball again. Not surprised. And for the next story of the day, we gotta talk about Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks and one of my favorite sharks of all time. This man is always interesting and fascinating to watch, if anything. Mark Cuban just went on CNBC essentially saying, I'm extremely bullish on Bitcoin. I think it might double. There's a lot to unpack about the story. I'm not going to do it in this video, but do I think Mark Cuban is right? Yes. Do I think it's a little bit self-serving because he's invested in it? For sure. And having said that, here's why I actually agree with Mark Cuban here. We're talking about a currency that is limited by design. 21 million or whatever it is, and then no more, no mas. So there's a limited supply, there's increased demand, it's completely decentralized, the bank, the government can't ever touch it, nobody knows where it's at, it's on the goddamn stratosphere, it's the perfect way to hedge against inflation. Tesla is loading up on it. It's now being used for transactional purposes much more. So if anything, I see the future in Bitcoin. I don't think it's going to replace the banking system. I don't think it can. I think that's nonsense. However, as an alternative electronic currency with actual day-to-day applications and inflationary protection, I think that this is the next wave. I definitely am extremely bullish on Bitcoin. I think Mark Cuban is right on this one. The full article, if you want to read it, is going to be linked below. Go ahead and check it out. It's actually very interesting. So for the next story of the day, we have this story coming out from Seeking Alpha. TV cord cutting accelerating over the next 2 years, new report says. So cord cutting is set to get even worse for legacy pay TV providers this year and the next, according to a report from S&P Global. Legacy providers, cable, satellite, and telecom, are set to lose 8.2% of their subscribers, up from losing 8% last year, and set to lose another 10% next year. And just check out this paragraph right here. S&P believes that those virtual providers will grow by 15% this year and 12% next year. Now check it out. Who are these providers? We're talking about Disney with Disney Plus, which I've been preaching, Google, AT&T, Sling, FUBO. By the way, FUBO is one stock that took a beating this year. Oh my goodness. And by the way, speaking of FUBO, they're definitely in the Doge house for this past year. They had a horrible year. And by horrible, I mean emotionally excruciating. Now, they seem to be recovering over the past 10 days. This is just another shot in the arm. It seems like this price for FUBO makes it an extremely attractive investment for a lot of people. I'm definitely still extremely bullish on FUBO. Let's move on to the next story of the day. A new lawsuit could weigh in on who is the real inventor of Bitcoin. So I'm not going to go through the entire article. You can read it later. I'm going to put the link in the description. But essentially, Craig Wright, the Australian that a lot of people like to hate, who claims to be Satoshi Nakamoto, has to prove that he is in fact the man to the courts in the UK, I believe, in order to win some sort of an infringement IP lawsuit for a website that actually published the white paper about Bitcoin, the one that originally came out of Satoshi Nakamoto. However, having said all that, does it really matter for the future of Bitcoin who Satoshi is? Not really. Bitcoin is headed where it's headed, regardless of the identity of the inventor. However, Knowing if Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto means a lot for the Bitcoin community, because I don't know if you know this, but he's been extremely critical of what Bitcoin has become and the claims that are being made about decentralization and all that good stuff. So if Craig Wright isn't the guy, which we'll find out very shortly with this lawsuit, it nullifies his entire criticism. But if he is the guy, we got to take it much more seriously. And by the way, a huge shout out to the channel members and patrons for making this possible. If you want to become a patron of the channel, it's $5 per month. The link is going to be below in the description and in the pinned comment. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys tomorrow.